and welcome to Grimgram Creations. My name is Rachel, and this week I'm going to be attempting to work on my office a little bit. I have a lot of messy shelves going on and have had messy shelves going on for a long time, and my current aesthetic obsessions are all across the board. I love things that are cute and pink and like Sailor Moon Star Guardian vibes with all the pastels and very coquette. Yes, coquette, not croquette. And like have lots of lace and lots of fluff and lots of girly things. And at the exact same time, I love things that are dark, gothic, and vampires, and that have all of these like beautiful, deep colors and themes, or like things that are Victorian and steampunk. So I'm trying to find a way to make my shelves have a combination of all the aesthetics. So right now, it's just a hot mess. You can kind of see a good look of it. The whole thing is been okay. I tried to take these dollar store buckets and I covered some of them in some nice sparkly paper. Some of them have labels, and this used to look really pretty and organized, but it has since come overrun with me adding more and more new projects. So my goal is just to add space and storage. And also you can see that this shelf is emptied out. My books in particular have a lot of just raw paper, bits of craft paper, sketchbooks, canvases, and so it's all like, I store it here, but it's not as pretty. So my idea to organize all of these things is boxes. I bought a handful of these magazine holder organizer things off of Amazon, and they're kind of just plain. But my thought process was, I saw this really cool picture or product that took one of these magazine holders and made it look like vintage books. And you know, if you like anything vintage Victorian or Gothic, you eat that up. So I want to make these look like cool vintage books and potentially have the spines be themed to look like whatever it is I'm storing inside them. That's the first thing. And then the other thing is, I got a bulk order of 25 of these shoe boxes. And I want to take these shoe boxes and make them fill up these shelves here. And I have these little apothecary labels. So I kind of want it to look like apothecary shelves, but at the same time, being a little bit like covered in lace and beads and coquette. Oh, right now, this is what we're working with. I have already taken a handful of them and covered them with a little bit of this kind of pink, some pink weathering, just so it looked a little bit like not as crisp and clean and pretty, but at the same time making it look girly, obnoxiously so. So I'm gonna do I think I have 25 of these, all 25 of these, so that, and then I'm going to take some lace trim and cover the outsides and then add on the labels. So these ones aren't too complicated. These guys, I'm not entirely sure how I'm gonna do this. So this one will come back to later. For now, we'll just do a lot of painting. So let's get to it.
The way I went about decorating these boxes is I started out with mixing a nice bright pink paint, and then I ended up going in with a good amount of color just on the corners, and then I would dry brush and blend it out going towards the center, and I repeated that process along the top and bottom edge, as well as on all of the corners and the tops edges of the box lid. It's time to repeat that process a million times on all of the other boxes. Yay!
Good morning. So I painted and I painted and I painted, and just to shake things up after that, I painted. And now we have the final result of all of the boxes being painted. And when I say all of the boxes, let's show you.
One eternity later.
Ta-ta! I I can't tell you how tempted I am to just leave this here, make it feel like I just have 2-box throne made of boxes that are giving like 2000s, 2010s shabby chic furniture that's been repainted.
Ugh. Brother, ugh.
So I'm pretty happy with how it turned out with the dry brushing. Just a note for anyone, if you would choose to attempt a project like this, when you're dry brushing boxes, most of the time for like a normal solid cardboard box, something that has kind of a matte finish, totally fine, you're not gonna run into that many issues, just make sure the brush isn't too wet. But these boxes, I think you can tell, have a glossy finish, and because of that, when I was dry brushing, it kept on taking the gloss off, and I was ending up with like little tiny chunks of the gloss stuck in my brush. So you just need to wash your brush a handful of times throughout the process. Next up now is going to be hot gluing all of these beauties with some ribbon trim. And let me just show you the trim that I got. So we have a couple different ones that I want to layer, and I feel like the layering ribbon is what will make it look that kind of cute, coquette, almost reminds me of Lolita clothing. You just want to look and feel like a cupcake covered in lace frills. So that's what we're gonna do. We've got this beautiful white lace trim, this beautiful pink and white trim, and then on top of that, these little beads, which are very cute. So you kind of get the vision there. This is the vision that'll be lined up on all of these beautiful boxes around the edges. Now we just need to go through and hot glue all of the boxes, and then I can show you the labels we have too. I'll have to double check if I have enough of these, but these guys I want to align just like that. That way I can have them stack up on the shelf, and I can just pull them out and then have the cute little labels that line up in there, describing what's in the box, aesthetic and functional. This is the magical combination of which we all aspire. I've never done a project with this many repetitive pieces before, so I'm really trying to be trying to set the bar high. Huh? For my first project, so. Okay, let's get to gluing. So, I've got my setup with my boxes and my hot glue and my ribbon in a nice organized method so that I can grab it without being too tangled. So now it's just time to glue.
To add the trim to the boxes, I first started out by taking the thin white trim. I glued it about halfway down the box using an extra glue stick to press that into the box so I could keep my fingers from being burned repeatedly. I did that all the way around the edge, then I ended up gluing the fluffy pink trim on top of that, gluing that along the very upper edge so that you could see the two layers sticking out. Then I topped that off with the pearl edging all the way around the lid of the box. Lastly, I took my apothecary labels and I simply hot glued them to the center. Now time to repeat.
Hello. So I made a good amount of progress on the boxes, and by good amount of progress I mean 8 out of 20. I ran out of ribbons and materials for the trimmings. We are waiting for the rest of that trim to arrive in the mail, which should be here tomorrow. So in the meantime, I'm working on the books for the book paper part of the shelf. I was looking at a lot of different designs online, and a lot of people glue chunks of cardboard onto the outside of existing books, like making decorative shelf books, and then covering it in fabric. So I've got a leftover box here that I'm just gonna take apart and use to make a variety of spines, maybe use some twine. And then I'm going to raid my fabric stash, which is a little bare bones, but yeah. And then probably make some book coverings. I should be able to get a good variety of colors and textures for the books. And then just go in with some dry brushing and gold paint to get like some gold leaf kind of detail. So let's just get to hot gluing some stuff.
For the box spines, I just deconstructed a box and cut it into a whole bunch of different strips of varying sizes, and then I would stack up those strips along the spines of the books, simply hot gluing them on and layering over the edge. And then I would repeat that process by making the cardboard a handful of different lengths and widths so that the boxes all looked a little bit different. Another way that I made the boxes all look a little unique is that I took a piece of cardboard and I measured it out to be about the height of the organizer, but half the width, and then hot glued that panel onto the organizer so that it looked like two thinner books that were sitting next to each other. And then I simply followed the same methodology for adding the spines using either different thicknesses of cardboards glued on horizontally or using some twine to create a couple different heights and textures.
Hello. So I have hot glued all of the magazine holders with a variety of spines, and I took about half of them and I added just another panel of cardboard on top of the spine to make it look like there's two smaller books next to each other. I love how these turned out in their shapes. So next up, I'm just taking a handful from my fabric stash, and I'm gonna cover all of these with the fabric, just again with the hot glue method because it's easy. I've got a handful of this kind of thinner polyester, and then I've got these two other black fabrics. My thought process is I want to take these darker fabrics and then take bright colors from my fabric paint stash, and then after they're all covered, I can dry brush these bright hues over the top of it to catch all the details, and then each book will look like a fun different color, but it'll also look kind of like weathered and aged. Try and do a couple that have pastel pinks on top of the gritty blacks and browns. At least we're gonna start with gluing the fabric on, and then I will come back to you and show you what are some of the paints. I'll probably test them on one and see how it looks before I go all over the place. See you in a bit.
Is this me in another outfit on another day with half the boxes done in the background? Maybe, probably. She didn't see anything. Let's not talk about it. Anyway, so to do this, I basically ended up cutting out the squares of fabric, and I would create like a little fake hem using some hot glue, and then I would just stick those guys on there using liberal amounts of hot glue, especially around those little cardboard spines so that the fabric would really grip them and help them to pop out. And then I would just trim the edges and fold them over so that everything would stay smooth and look clean, and then glued it all around the edges and did that process with both the big boxes and the little half boxes like you see here.
Hello, it's another day. I ended up getting these all covered in some different textures of fabrics, and I really do like how it's caught all the details of the cardboard that I have underneath there. They all look kind of different. They have good shadows and good texture. I really like that. Something I realized though is that I was trying to dry brush on some brown fabric paint because a really common color I like in a lot of these vintage books that I was looking at for my inspiration pictures is they have that kind of brown canvasy look to them. And the feeling of this fabric is perfect for that, but the paint that I have is too watery, so it keeps on getting absorbed. You can see on this one, this is an example of one that I did a dry brush of some brown, and it does help make the details pop, but the base tone is still very that kind of foggy gray. And this one, I tried to dry brush over brown, and then I tried to dry brush over green mixed with a little bit of white to just make the details pop. And you can clearly see the whitish green. That pops out beautifully, but everything else kind of gets lost just because of the thickness of the paint that I have. So I'm thinking about running out and grabbing some spray paint and then spray painting the majority of these just with a little wash of brown. That way that helps get that kind of base tone that I want. And would this have been easier if I had done it in brown fabric? Probably. Did I have brown fabric? No, I had leather that I'm saving for another project. So we're gonna figure out how to do this. So I'm gonna go buy some spray paint. So today I need to go buy some spray paint and spray paint these and then dry brush on the other color. And then I have gold paint. I'll double check I have enough, but I have gold paint so I can do the detail work and that'll look great and beautiful. So that I need to do gold filigree to create the labels for these. I also need to finish adding the trim and the labels to the boxes. So there's a lot to do today, but we're gonna do our best. And if we can't get it all done today, then we'll spread out between today and tomorrow. Let's get into it. Hello! So I ended up spray painting these all, and I personally think it looks way better. The colors are, the base is more desaturated. Some of them have an actual like leather looking texture because of the gloss. And the ones that don't, there's now a layer of paint across them all so that I can dry brush on some different colors or just put in detail work and it's not gonna get soaked into the fabric. So yeah, I think the spray painting worked beautifully. They'll look a lot more aged and vintage. So now I'm going to dry brush on the different colors that I want for the different books. Honestly, I couldn't really like the look of most of them, so I might not do that very many, maybe one or two. I'm not sure yet. But I've also made a list of all of the paper goods that I want to store. I am also going to start sketching out the design I want and the titles of the books so that the titles on the spine relate to the contents within the storage container. I am excited, so I'm just gonna get myself set up and start working all that out. So let's go.
So for painting these boxes, I just mixed up about 3 or 4 different paints, and then I was dry brushing the color on top of each of the different spines using a little extra sheet of paper to help keep the paints clean and all of the different colors on the books that I wanted them to be on.
Hello! So it's next day. All of the boxes have had a chance to dry off after I brushed on some different varying colors on them, and for the most part I really like it. I feel like it ties together kind of the earthy tones as well as like the bright colors that I have with these boxes, which sneak peek of these being put up. And I think every time I look at them, I both love them and then kind of don't like them. And I think this just because I need the spines to be finished on them. I'm just gonna start looking at my reference pictures, set up at my desk, and try and doodle out a handful of the designs before I paint them on. Most of the reference pictures that I have are very like gold filigree mixed with like cream embossed designs. So I'm probably gonna go for like something in between, mix up a cream paint, then add in some gold, try to get like in between the two. Maybe outline them with Sharpie if I want them to pop more, because a lot of the designs have those kinds of outlines. So we shall see. I'm at least gonna start out with some chalk and sketch out what I want on here before I go in with paint. So let's get started on that.
before I went in with any paint, I just took some chalk and I did a quick outline of how I wanted to translate my inspiration pictures onto these organizers and just doing a rough shape so I could picture how I wanted the finished product to look. And then I ended up mixing up a nice creamy gold yellow paint, and I was able to just quickly wipe off the chalk and then go in and paint all of my designs, including a little name on each of the books or every other one of the books that was saying what was being held in the organizer, but designed to look like a pretty vintage book title. And with that, it's time for the reveal.
Just to review kind of everything that went on, I'm really happy with how these turned out. I did not get a lot of footage of me painting all of these, mostly because it was a very repetitive process, just looking at different references, trying to kind of copy what I liked and make some creative adjustments as I went. This took way longer than I had initially scheduled. The actual construction of these, not that bad. I probably waited like an extra day that I needed to waiting for the book pieces to dry, especially after spray painting, so there wasn't any fumey residue left in my office. But the thing that made this project take the longest was waiting for all of the second and third and fourth orders of the trim that I needed to cover these dang boxes. So if you want to do a project like this, please, for your own sake, for my sake, do the math. You need to get the yardage, just do the math. Math, maybe not always fun. Do it anyway. Ask ChatGPT to do it for you. Just don't be me. Learn from my mistakes. But all in all, this is really fun to do for my first official video. If you end up doing this, please comment, end up tagging me. I'd love to see other people's attempts. Hold on. Hello, Bear. This is Bear. This is my familiar and my creative muse. Say hello. Yeah, that's kind of the gist of the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to help the video, please go ahead, like, comment, subscribe, feed the algorithm beast because it's hungry. It would help out my video a lot. I'm trying out this new project, so if you have any ideas for videos, go ahead and add those in the comments too. I've got a lot of ideas, so many ideas that are just filled up in my phone and in my brain, and I've had them for years, so I'm really excited to share them with you, whoever you are. So thank you so much for spending some time with me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.